Hey y'all. Shalom, shalom. Peace be unto you. Greetings. Hello, whichever you want to use. It's your sister Shia back again with another episode of story time, whatever you want to call it. I'm just here talking about random stuff. So what I want to talk about again now is um how to tell if someone is doing witchcraft or voodoo on you. I'm gonna let this sound play from this sister's video. What's her name? Her name is I am possible, like I'm possible instead of Kim possible. I am possible. So I'm gonna let her tell the story. Let's just listen.
Hello, 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 YouTube family. So today's a little bit different. Today I want to talk about signs and how to tell someone is doing witchcraft and voodoo on you. Okay? Witchcraft and voodoo. How to tell. All right. Sign number one. Sign number one. Bad dreams. Okay? Having dreams about being naked, walking in the street naked, using the toilet naked, or having sex with different men that you don't know, animals attacking you, weird type of animals, people cooking in the dream, trying to feed you food and stuff like that. On the train, on the bus, don't know what direction you're going in. These are signs of witchcraft and voodoo. Waking up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. Can't go back to sleep. 3 a.m. is the time, but waking up in the middle of the night, can't go back to sleep. Signs of witchcraft and voodoo. Okay? Okay, sign number two. Sign number two.
Say I
All
don't
of a
get
sudden,
tired.
you start feeling lazy. You start feeling getting headache, lightheaded. Don't want to do anything. You're sleeping, but you're going to work. You're going everywhere, but you just feel tired. You feel like a weight is on you.
I can walk my
Okay,
path in
these
my
are
sleep.
signs of witchcraft and voodoo. Okay, you just want to give up. You know, just like, oh my goodness, I can't get up. I can't clean. I don't want to go to work. I don't want to do that. Just get up and you just feel like a weight. Signs of witchcraft and voodoo. Sign number three. Okay, you out there, you applying for jobs, you applying for apartments, everything is rejected, rejected, rejected. You don't know why. You're like, I'm trying my best, I'm out there, I'm hustling, I'm doing my resume, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And you just can't get ahead. One step forward, 10 steps back. Signs of witchcraft and voodoo. This is what we call blocking your roads. Okay, so it's like you don't know what direction you're going in. You don't. It's like going in a circle, like a hamster wheel. Signs of witchcraft and voodoo. Okay. Number four, if it's pertaining to love. So say like you break up with a person, right? You don't want to be with them no more. You know you don't want to be with them anymore. Um, or a person likes you and you don't have any interest in them, right? All of a sudden, if you break up with this person, they constantly running through your mind. You eating, they're on your mind. You're cooking, they're on your mind. You're taking a shower, they're on your mind. You're going to bed, and it's like you're longing for them now. You don't know why. You're like confused, like, why am I longing for this person? I don't even want this person. Or why do I like this person all of a sudden? I never took interest in this person. These are signs of witchcraft. It's like the person is pulling you towards them. Come to me. That's like a love for voodoo witchcraft. All of a sudden you want to reach out to them. All of a sudden, it's like, it's like they're pulling you towards them. You know. Okay, that's number four. I want to do a segment. Okay, so I really don't do general readings. I do personal readings. I'm gonna get to this. I want to show you something. But for those of you out there who say, "Oh, well, witchcraft that doesn't exist. That there's no such thing as witchcraft." It does exist. It does. Okay, it does exist. Okay, a lot of you are oblivious. You know, you don't know why you're not getting ahead. You don't know why you're having these dreams. You don't know why you feel so depressed and so this and down and this and that, right? All of a sudden, your life is going good. You know, you and then next thing you know, it's like spiraling down, right? And you don't know why. Okay, that's why. And 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 witchcraft is a belief system. All right. So these people who partake in these things, right? The mind is very powerful. So they believe in their craft. They believe whatever they're conjuring up is going to work. And whatever you believe in, it manifests. If you truly believe in it with all your heart, all your mind, if you truly believe in it, it will manifest. Okay? And these people who do witchcraft and voodoo really believe in their craft. That's why they call witch doctors, spiritual healers, and so forth and so on. Okay? Because they really believe in their craft. And if you really believe in something, it will manifest. Okay? And that's the God honest truth. Whatever you believe in, it will manifest. If you truly and really believe in it, it will manifest. Alright? So witchcraft does exist. Okay? It does. Voodoo does exist. It does. Alright? Whatever you want to call it. Voodoo, witchcraft, heebie jeebies, whatever. It does exist. Okay? Alright, so getting back to this. Like I don't do general readings. Like this is my first shot of doing general readings. I started with love, but I don't know. I'm gonna switch it up. Um, and I usually do personal readings. Now I'm gonna tell you why this card is very important. The moon. The moon card is very, very, very important. Why? Say like I'm doing a personal reading for someone, right? I never seen a tarot reader. I've been watching YouTube videos, and I never seen a tarot reader say anything about pertaining to this card and the real meaning behind it. They say, "Oh, this is secrets. This is hidden truth. This is this and that," right? But the moon card. If I'm doing a reading for you, and this comes out like this, right? Like this, as your overall energy, and I pick it up like this means witchcraft and voodoo. This means somebody is doing work on you.
And you can go to
That's what
her
this
page
means.
if you want to see what she's
That's the
talking
real
about.
meaning behind the moon card. Okay? Alright? For a general reading, okay, yes, I could use it as a secret, whatever, but the true meaning behind it, if it comes out in a face value, is witchcraft and voodoo. Alright? So say like for instance, we want to find out who this person is that's doing witchcraft and voodoo, right? Because people who are experienced in doing witchcraft and voodoo, they know how to hide themselves, right? So
Not
so
really.
say like we try to figure out who this person is, right? And it comes up like this, and
We
the
all
person comes up like
see,
this.
sees
They're
all
hiding themselves.
and
See,
knows all.
right? So yeah. So the moon card is very important when it comes to my readings, personal readings, because this is how I could tell witchcraft and voodoo. So okay, people. If you have any suggestions on videos that you would like for me to do,
All right, that's it for that. Now we're going to talk about uh, la 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 la. Let's talk about Hebrew Israelites, or just we can say religion in general, as far as it deals with magic. Hebrew magicians. And I specifically want to talk about sex and love magic. baby. It's hot out there. Hot. It's hotter. All right. Let me pull this up on the computer. Gotta tell all your haters, hi haters, hi haters. Yes, I'm still here. Yes, I'm still alive. Yes, I'm still on my way to my destiny. What the brother said. Life is funny, ain't it? Oh, praises to the Most High. Yes. Say no to Satan. Say yes to the Father. Yes. Hallelujah to the Mother, the Father. Great awakening, baby. I don't know we ain't come to play. I mean, we play, but not when it comes to serious stuff. Play all day with you, but not when it comes to the truth, honey. We got to keep it real all day, every day, 100%. 100% of the time. Now, meow, meow. Wait, what is this? Hebrew sex magic and love magic. Do, 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 do. Okay, this is not yet available, but let's read the description. This is the Kabbalah and Sex Magic, a mythical ritual genealogy by Marla Siegel. In this provocative book, Marla Siegel explores the development of the Kabbalistic cosmology underlying Western sex magic. Drawing extensively on Jewish myth and ritual, Siegel tells the powerful story of the relationship between the divine and the human body in late antiquity Jewish or antique Jewish esotericism, in medieval Kabbalah, and in New Age ritual practice. Uh, this book traces the evolution of a Hebrew microcosm that models the powerful interaction of human and divine bodies at the heart of both Kabbalah and some forms of Western sex magic. Focusing on Jewish esoteric and medical sources from the 5th to the 12th century from Byzantium, Persia, Iberia, and southern France, Siegel argues that in its fully developed medieval form, the Kabbalah operated by ritualizing a mythos of divine creation by means of sexual reproduction. She situates in cultural and historical context the emergence of Jewish cosmological models for conceptualizing both human and divine bodies and the interactions between them, arguing that all these sources position the body and its senses as the locus of culture and the means of reproducing it. Siegel explores the rituals acting on these models, attending especially to their inherent erotic power, and ties these to contemporary Western sex magic, showing that such rituals have a continuing life. Asking questions about its cosmology, myths, and rituals, Siegel poses even larger questions about the history of Kabbalah, the changing conceptions of the human relation to the divine, and even the nature of religious innovation itself. This groundbreaking book will appeal to students and scholars of Jewish studies, religion, sexuality, and magic. All right. In Incantations, spells, and adjurations. Some traditional Jewish sources indicate belief in the efficacy of spells or efficacy. Efficacy, whatever. Okay, next I'm going to talk about. Okay, so reprinted with permission from the Encyclopedia of Jewish Magic, Myth, and Mysticism, Llewellyn Worldwide. This is myjewishlearning.com article on incantation spells and adjurations. An incantation or spell is a spoken word, phrase, or formula of power, often recited as part of a larger ritual, which is recited in order to effect a magical result. Most cultures have some idea about words having supernatural constructive powers, but nowhere is this belief stronger than in Judaism. Both the Bible and Jewish mysticism emphasize that God created the universe by means of a series of speech acts. Humanity is the only one of God's mortal creation with the power of speech, implying that our words can, under certain conditions, have the same constructive and destructive power. Underlying beliefs, Jewish belief in the efficacy of spells or constructive language is premised on three assumptions. One, there is special power inherent in the names of God. Two, there is special power in the words and phrases that God speaks, i.e., the words of the Torah and the Hebrew Bible. The Hebrew alphabet itself is supernatural in origin, which means that using Hebrew letters in certain combinations is a source of special power, even when it has no semantic value to the adept. Kinds of spells. Spells may be either theurgic or magical in character. Usually, the belief underlying the use of theurgic spells is that God has in some way delegated that power or authority to the adept. Truly magical incantations, by comparison, are autonomous. They do not involve spiritual entities at all. Often, a magical spell or incantation is simply addressed to the object to be influenced. Thus, a truly magical incantation most closely parallels the word power of God Himself. Incantation phrases are also a form of heightened speech, not unlike poetry. As such, there are a number of distinctive stylistic features present in incantations. These include repetition, rhythm, reversals, nonsense words, foreign words, and divine names of power. Repetition, usually done 3 or 7 times or by another number symbolically relevant to the issue at hand, is the premier aspect of constructive words of power, Shabbat 66b in the Talmud. Thus, we find a teaching in the Talmud, for example, that reciting a verse containing the phrase voice of the Lord 7 times thwarts evil spirits at night. Backwards reduction. An incantation meant to undo the effects of a given event or phenomenon will often include elements of reversal, reciting a word or phrase backwards in some fashion. An example would be this one for dislodging a bone in the esophagus. I'm not going to read that. In whatever that is in the Talmud, we read that one afflicted with an ocular disease should recite the word blindness repeatedly in the phrase, my mother has cautioned me against blindness. With each repetition, the speaker should reduce one letter from the word. The magical ritual of reducing the word is intended to yield a parallel reduction in the severity of the illness. Speaking nonsense. Spells can include rhymed or nonsense phrases that have minimal or no semantic value. Rather, rhythmic, meaningless arrangements of words and phrases are used for the illusionary or mantra like effect, or for a sympathetic result, or because these words are understood to be meaningful to heavenly powers, if not the adept. For example, to fend off an evil water spirit, the Talmud recommends intoning this: I dwell among the stars, I walk among thin and fat people. What? While the second clause of this spell is strange enough, the first clause of the spell is neither Hebrew nor Aramaic. By all indications, it is just gibberish. This feature, common to Greco Roman magic, emerges in Jewish circles in late antiquity. Akin to nonsense phrases, incantations often include nomina barbara, the use of foreign words and phrases. This feature of Jewish spells go back to the Babylonian tradition of using archaic Sumerian words in their incantations and becomes characteristic of Jewish incantations by the Greco-Roman period. With the later decline of Hebrew and Aramaic as a spoken language, these languages themselves become lingua magica for many spellcasters, both Jewish and Gentile. Rashi, medieval French commentator, explains that an integral part of spell casting involves reciting words that may be incomprehensible to the enchanter. What's in a name? The use of names of power is a pervasive aspect of all Hebrew Jewish spells. The names of God, angels, the righteous dead, even one's mother are considered critical to giving an incantation efficacy. Often the names are encrypted in Atbash form, an ancient letter substitution code called mirroring the Hebrew alphabet, or in other occult methods. Spells from late antiquity are often promiscuous in the powers they invoke, freely mixing Jewish and pagan entities. One Greco Egyptian spell calls upon first angel of the god of blah 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 and blah, who rule heaven's realm. I call you, and you, archangel blah blah blah. Down from blah blah blah, delighting in dawn, come gracious who view sunset from the dawn. What? Okay. They be doing too much. Rabbinic views magical incantations that appear in the Talmud and are therefore presumably sanctioned by at least some sages mostly serve the functions of healing and protection. But now these devils, not these devils, they ain't putting out no healing and protection. These devils is trying to kill, steal, and destroy. Take everything you got, lie to you, destroy your thoughts, your purpose, your soul, your body, your flesh, your face, your skin, your hair, your nails, everything. They want you to be down for the count. Down for the count. Knock them out, knock them out. Ain't gonna happen though. Ain't gonna happen. You cannot come against the righteous and not think that same wickedness that you putting out not gonna come back to you tenfold. And the righteous don't got to do nothing. No, the righteous don't need a gun. The righteous don't need a knife. Don't got to do nothing. Don't got to turn my head. Don't got to do nothing. What Lot wife do? Turn around, turn it to a pillar of salt. It's a lot of salty sisters and brothers out here. People need to get it together. Y'all need to have some faith. People need to have some faith. Ain't nobody got no faith. And then be mad at you because you got faith. You ain't going to take my faith with your faithless self. I ain't got nothing to do with that. Stay away from me with that kind of energy. Stay away from me. Stay away from my kids. Stay away from everybody that I know if you coming in a negative energy. Because I don't got time. I will lay hands on you. And that's facts. Yes, I'm nice. Yes, I'm humble. But I will lay hands on somebody that's trying to disrespect my gangster. Yes. Yes, I will. Respect my mind to get your brains knocked out. Y'all heard the song. We know the song. Right. Right. Okay. It just makes me so upset to know that people are really doing witchcraft on people, like somebody doing that stuff to them. It's just really sick and sad. Really sick and sad. But everything, like I said, all the negative energy that people are pushing my way, I am pushing it right back, right through the airways. 10 times. 10 times. So Magical incantations that appear in the Talmud and are therefore presumably sanctioned by at least some sages mostly serve the functions of healing and protection. And one sage gives explicit sanction to the use of magic if it is done solely for the purposes of healing. Outside the Talmudic Midrashic tradition proper, there are spells for summoning angels, love spells, and binding spells intended to curse or thwart a rival in love, business, or other personal matters. Hmm? Why do we need to do that? While rabbinic authorities have never endorsed the latter forms of incantations, they are more tolerant of spells that enhance goals the sages endorse, such as healing or spells meant to enhance the learning of Torah. These latter two types are perhaps the most common in Jewish literature. Tolerance for the use of spells can also be regional. The Babylonian Talmud preserves several examples of spells, while the Palestinian Talmud has virtually none. We know that at least some Jews in Palestine engaged in spell casting because we have magical texts from that region and period. Evidently, the difference between the two Talmuds reflects something of the respective official attitude among the sages of those regions toward spellcraft. Spells in medieval Judaism. The types of incantations recorded continue to expand in number and variety of purpose throughout the Middle Ages. In the theurgic manuals, like the Book of the Responding Entity, there appear an increasing number of spells based on astrological power, what Renaissance adepts would dub natural magic. In expressly magical texts like Sefer Raziel, there appear incantations to receive all desire. These spells often completely parallel Gentile magic involving magical materials, fire and water, invoking the names of governing angels, and throwing something of value with magical names and phrases inscribed on it into the proper element, fire, the seas, etc. Treasure locating spells also appear in medieval magic manuals. What status many of these spells had in normative Jewish circles is hard to judge. Again, spells recorded in the works of later religious authorities tend to be limited to the same areas tolerated by Talmudic authorities. Incantations for better memorizing Torah, invoking an angel, a usually beneficent spiritual possession of a living body, and for protection against medical or supernatural misadventure. Yep, this is the one I wanted to read right here. So, making men of clay. A golem is a clay creature that has been magically brought to life. The name comes from the Hebrew word golem, which means something incomplete or unfinished, like an embryo. The Talmud relates a tale of rabbis who grew hungry while on a journey, so they created a calf out of earth and ate it for dinner. Arr? The Kabbalists, Jewish mystics, determined that the rabbis did this magical act by means of permuting language, primarily utilizing the formulas set forth in the Sefer Yetzirah, or Book of Creation. Just as God speaks and creates in the Genesis story, so too can the mystic. The word abracadabra incidentally derives from abra cadabra, Aramaic for I create as I speak. Thus, under the rarest of circumstances, a human being may imbue lifeless matter with that intangible but essential spark of life, the soul. The Kabbalists saw the creation of a golem as a kind of alchemical task, the accomplishment of which proved the adept's skill and knowledge of the Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism. In popular legend, however, the golem became a kind of folk hero. Tales of mystical rabbis creating life from dust abounded, particularly in the early modern period, and inspired such tales as Frankenstein and the Sorcerer's Apprentice. Sometimes the golem saves the Jewish community from persecution or death, enacting the kind of heroism or revenge unavailable to powerless Jews. Often, however, Jewish folk tales about the golem tell what happens when things go awry, when the power of life force goes astray, often with tragic results. The classic narrative of the golem tells of how Rabbi Judah Low of Prague, known as the Maharal, 1525 through 1609, creates a golem to defend the Jewish community from anti Semitic attacks. But eventually, the golem grows fearsome and violent, and Rabbi Low is forced to destroy it. Legend tells that the golem remains in the attic of the Alt Nulshul in Prague, ready to be reactivated if needed. This legend reappeared in Michael Chabon's The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier. Likewise, in Paul Wegener's expressionist film The Golem 1920, the golem is a brutish creature whose powers are all too easily turned to destructive ends. Aiden, this is, of course, a perfect encapsulation of the same anxiety that underlies so much of the mystical speculation about demons, dibooks, ghosts, and golems. The power of life is so strong that it brings both promise and terror. Aiden, checking on you. All right, Jewish music, the Nigun, a mystical musical prayer introduced by Hasidic Judaism. Let's get a quick definition on what it means to be Hasidic. Chassid origin, Hebrew, a Hasidic Jew, a follower of Hasidic Judaism, a stream within ultra Orthodox Judaism that grew out of an 18th century mystical revival. All right, so there are gates in heaven that cannot be opened except by melody and song, attributed to Rabbi Schneur Zalman of Liadi from the of Kabod. Ichabod Crane. Ichabod Crane. From the time of its emergence in the 18th century, the Hasidic movement turned to music and dance as powerful forms of Jewish religious expression. One result was the Hasidic Nigun, Hebrew for melody, plural nigunim, a new genre of Jewish vocal music, often described as a mystical musical prayer or a spiritual language beyond words. The Hasidic Nigun is a fundamental part of all Ashkenazi culture and is, in the words of one Hasidic master, the pen of the soul. Features and style. Musically speaking, Hasidic nigunim vary enormously in style, form, and feeling. Some are slow and meditative, others fast and jubilant. Nevertheless, they generally share certain basic features. They are songs formed of multiple melodic phrases, typically sung without instrumental accompaniment and without words. This last feature, while not found in every Hasidic nigun, is one of the genre's most distinguishing characteristics. In place of words, repeated nonsense syllables are used. Nigunim are also performed in a distinctive expressive vocal style with dramatic inflections similar to cantorial music referred to by the Yiddish works kretz, moan, sigh, or sob, and netch, to pinch. The unique form and features of Hasidic Nigunim reflect the creative and radical nature of Hasidic theology. To be sure, the connection between music and Jewish prayer was not a wholly Hasidic invention. In fact, music had always played a central role in Jewish religious life, a fact to which both ancient biblical texts, such as the Book of Psalms and medieval liturgical songs, testify. Likewise, likewise, medieval Jewish mystics developed complex ideas about the theological and even magical power of music in the universe. However, the rabbis took a decidedly cautious, sometimes even negative attitude towards music. Out of concerns about piety and the role of music in Gentile religions and cultural traditions, they generally discouraged the use of instrumental music in the synagogue and banned it altogether on the Sabbath and holidays. Most crucially, they insisted that text mattered more than melody. Thus, in traditional liturgy and medieval religious poetry, individual melodies were frequently changed, but the Hebrew and Aramaic texts were considered sacred and unalterable. Take the song right out the throat, huh? Ursula, Auntie Ursula. A great spiritual power. Musically speaking, the revolution of the 18th century Hasidic movement was to elevate music to a symbolic place above sacred text. Now, melodies themselves were not only acceptable, but even in some cases more important than words. According to Hasidic tradition, this idea began with the founder of Hasidism, Rabbi Israel Baal Shem Tov, or the Beast, 1698 through 1750. He is credited with emphasizing the importance of vocal music as a form of personal confession and spiritual expression. He taught that song is an even greater form of spiritual expression than traditional prayer, and that the Hasidic nigun was a musical path to God that transcended the limitations of language itself. There remain many nigunim attributed to him, including Dim Reb's nigun. This same reference for the Nigun and belief in its great spiritual power continued down through the generations of Hasidic rabbinic dynasties. The centrality of this is expressed in many sayings, such as Rabbi Nachman of Breslov's. Music originates from the prophetic spirit and has the power to elevate one to prophetic inspiration, and song is the soul of the universe. One of the most famous Hasidic composers was Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, 1745 through 1812, the founder of the Chabad Lubavitch movement. For this first Lubavitcher Rebbe, melody was an outpouring from the individual human soul. Words only interrupted the stream of emotions. Furthermore, melodies with text were limited in time because they only lasted as long as the words. The Song of the Souls, on the other hand, consists of tones dismantled of words. As such, they reached onto the truly cosmic level of the universe. Shneur Zalman is credited with the composition of one of the most famous Hasidic nigunim, the Nigun of the Four Gates, said to have been written during his imprisonment by the Tsarist government in St. Petersburg in 1798. This Nigun has four sections, which build in musical intensity. They have been interpreted in a variety of ways. One common interpretation is that they represent a human process of soul expression leading to a spiritual awakening, receiving the divine, cleaving to God, and then the soul's separation from the body and ascent to the heavens. Another interpretation is that the four gates represent the four mystical spiritual realms of activation, creation, formation, and divine emanation. Still, other another view holds that the four sections symbolize four stages of God's creation of the universe: the physical world, the natural world, plants and animals, humankind, and the heavens. Later Hasidic Rebs continued to ascribe both mystical, magical power to nigunim and extolled the more basic, if no less powerful, effects of music on human psychology. Over time, different kinds of nigunim developed amongst various Hasidic communities, and in the larger East European Jewish world, there are many different kinds of nigunim associated with Talmud study, prayers, and other aspects of traditional Jewish life. Roughly speaking, however, the three main kinds of Hasidic nigunim are dans, tunes, and tish. Hmm, hmm. So you have your slow tempo melodies in free rhythm, non-metric or changing meter with a reflective mood. Their name derives from the biblical passage in Deuteronomy 13 and 4, and cleave unto him, that refers to the individual's attempt to commune with God. They are usually performed by individuals. Dance tunes are simpler, faster, and more rhythmic and metrical, designed to be sung by a group during dancing. They are usually performed in unison without harmony. Table tunes are slower and more complex, often sung at Sabbath or holiday meals or in the presence of a Hasidic rib. Origins and sources. Where do the melodies of Hasidic nigunim come from? While many tunes are ascribed. Ooh, ooh, yeah, I don't know. What you say? What you say? What you say? Okay. From a diverse array of sources, including traditional Jewish prayer, modes of Cossack dances, Polish military marches, East European folk songs, Eastern Near Eastern dance tunes, and even Central European waltzes. Don't sound like none of our stuff. The use of secular or non Jewish melodies for nigunim was not considered a problem for the Hasidic Jews. On the contrary, Hasidic thought contains a notion of literally fixing, whereby non Jewish or secular melodies can be spiritually redeemed and restored to their religious state by being sung as nigunim, either with new religious lyrics or without words altogether. A famous example of this tikkun is the Hungarian nigun Ghouls Ghouls. Jules, Julia, I would never make a fool of you. According to tradition, Caliber Zadik, Isaac, or Kalev, was once walking in the Ukrainian forest when he heard a pastoral shepherd singing a love song in Ukrainian. The Hasidic Jew was captivated by the song, whose lyrics spoke of the shepherd's longing for his love, separated from him by the vast forest. The Hasidic Rebbe took the song and translated the lyrics into Yiddish, replacing the lyrics description of the secular love with a description of his soul's longing for the Shekinah, the mystical divine presence of God. He then asked the shepherd to sing the song, but the young man found he had forgotten it. Whereupon the Hasid exclaimed, I have purified the Nigun and returned it to its holy sources. What you eating? Hungry. It ain't never no 8:30. That is crazy. Okay, so perhaps the best evocation of the modern transformation of Hasidic Nigunim comes in a famous short story by the Yiddish writer Y.L. Peretz. In this work called A Gilgul for a Nigum, the transmigration of a melody, The author describes the tale of a Nigun that wanders from town to town in Eastern Europe as various people hear it and borrow it temporarily. After beginning its life as a wedding melody composed for a Hasidic Reb, it goes on to become a Jewish memorial prayer in another, then moves via Kiev to the Yiddish theater in Warsaw, only to end up being played as a poor organ grinder's tune in the circus. The Nigun's wanderings continues from house to house, person to person, town to town, and eventually back to the Hasidic Reb. But the melody's migration is not yet done at the tale's end. It departs with one of its bearers to a new destination, America. Peret's story aptly conveys the fate of Hasidic Nigunim in the modern world. They continue to live multiple, often unpredictable lives, both in present day Hasidic communities and other parts of the Jewish world. Now, that definitely. Let's take a break.
Planet X sex is all about the mother. Straight up out the Milky Way, you best to take cover. We don't play no games, seen the simulation over. What's gonna happen next? We about to take over. Planet X sex is all about the mother. Straight up out the Milky Way, you best to take cover. We don't play no games, seen the simulation over. What's gonna happen next? We about to take over. Yeah, I'm your lucky charm, yeah, your poor leaf clover. Try to kill me 9 times, but you can't. I'm a soldier, my main I like the sun. Oh, you thought you had a goofy, but you got the right one. Some things make you scream if you see me in your dreams. I'm up with that machete like a lion in your belly. End of the nation, better get to your station. It's the end of the world, yeah, the great tribulation. Planet X sex is all about
I know what you're doing, where you're going. The devil can't do nothing but throw rocks and hide his hands. And that's it.
Let us remember that when we're reading these things, that we have to know that these people have changed times and laws and made up stuff to put themselves in a position that they didn't naturally belong. So, what? Let's see what they say. What do we talk about when we talk about love magic? A survey of ancient love magic. Make this bigger. Okay, so it is easy to perceive the motives. Yep, did I miss something? It is easy to perceive the motives which lead men to practice magic. They are human wishes. All we need to suppose is that primitive man had an immense belief in the power of his wishes. One typical feature of magic is the attempt to modify existing reality and adapt it, as Fruit suggested, to the wishes of the spell beneficiary. Often people resort to magic when they feel they cannot sufficiently influence reality through other means. Thus, one sphere of human life inviting magical assistance is the emotional sphere, since one's emotions cannot be controlled by others. Unsurprisingly, magical attempts to modify another person's sentiments appear already in very early periods. In this chapter, I will survey the historical background of the use of magic for objectives related to love and describe the phenomenon in several traditions. I do not postulate the existence of direct contacts that led to similarities in the practices and the magical formula that will be described below. In most cases, these parallels stem from a psychological affinity between human beings in different cultures and periods. In what follows, I will delineate several characteristic features of love. Let's see. As fruit, totem and taboo, some points of agreement between the mental lives of savages and neurotics. Throughout this book, the term spell beneficiary will denote the person for whom the magical practice, amulet, or incantation was intended, whether he or she performed the spell or whether it was performed by a professional magician. This state refers to a time when emotion altering chemicals were not available. My position resembles the one put forth by M. Geller, Mesopotamian Love Magic, Discourse or Intercourse. Sex and Gender in the Ancient Near East, and Ancient Greek Love Magic. So, features of love magic, which will then serve as the basis for discussion of Jewish love magic in the next chapters. Nowadays, the word love encompasses a variety of meanings. It did so equally in ancient periods. Therefore, an examination of the term love magic must include a discussion of the various goals that its users sought to achieve. For example, the goal of some magical acts was to imbue a man or a woman with desire to engage in sexual relations with the spell beneficiary, while other practices were intended to reinforce existing loving relationships of the type that may be called nowadays romantic. Conversely, some spells sought to separate two partners in order to turn the love of one of them towards a third party. Magic related to impotence may also occasionally appear under the heading of love magic. as difficulties in sexual performance were often attributed to a spell having been cast upon the man. Some separation spells seek to inhibit the man or the woman from performing sexually with their partners and thus may be regarded as impotent spells. Another type was intended to increase the social appeal of the spell beneficiary, making him or her loved or appreciated by one or more persons in a non romantic way. Insider evidence derived from magicians and users of magic may be found for each of the three categories described above, originating in different periods and cultural traditions. Additionally, one may find outsider evidence for these categories, such as literary depictions of love magic. Since this book will cover various aspects of Jewish love magic, so will the survey in the present chapter include different aspects. Mm, hmm, hmm, hmm. Oh, apple magic. Uh, 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 all right. Y'all know what I was talking about. Apple dark magic. They want to play games with the algorithm. Dark magic using apples. Eve, don't eat the apple, Eve. Put it down. Put it down, Eve. 10 Ways to Use Apples in Witchcraft by moodymoons.com. Come on now. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Come on, let's refresh. Come on, let's reload. All right. Doom, doo, doom. Doom, doom, doo, doom. Doom, 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 doom. Right. Learn to use apples in witchcraft, magic, and experience apple season as an enchanted realm of earthly delights. The apple might be best described as the red headed mistress of literary symbolism. From scandalous biblical scripture to the envy green jealousy of a fairy tale queen and her poisoned fruit, this beautiful garden gem bears quite a reputation as a mischief maker. For the modern witch, the apple tree calls to mind all the ethereal intrigue of daring to explore what lies beyond the ordinary five senses. Walk through an apple orchard and feel the living, moving, earth-shattering energy that swirls invisibly around us. Curiosity peaked, head to a pick your own farm and try one of these spell ideas while apple picking season lasts. I knew it was some. Use apples in tarot spells. Surround the Empress card from the tarot apple slices, dry or fresh, them on the altar for help with fertility. Mm. Somebody ain't got no faith, they got to do all that. Pour a libation apple juice to encourage wisdom. In Western lore, apples strongly symbolize knowledge and self awareness. Pour a libation of apple juice during your next ritual to ask for a gift of insight or to seek help with life decisions. Include apples in spells to avert temptation. Apples may be used in weight loss spells or spells for seekers fighting addictive patterns. Bury an apple with tobacco or another symbol of vice and light a candle every night for a full moon cycle to support earnest efforts at breaking negative habits. Mhm. Toss in cauldron brews for love. Add apple peels to a large pot or cauldron of water with cinnamon, allspice, and or ginger root to infuse your home with romance. Great for date night. Cut an apple in half to find the pentacle. If you cut an apple in half the fat way, not the tall way, if that makes sense, you will find a pentacle star in the middle. Press spell ingredients into the flesh or use it to symbolize earth on an all natural altar. Make a wand from the wood. Apple branches make gorgeous wands. Leave yours natural or decorated with gemstones, shells, sea glass, feather, etc. Fill a basket of apples and put it on your altar. As the veil between worlds thins between Mabon and Samhain, our connection to our ancestors grows closer. Apples symbolize the food of the dead, so leave them on the altar to honor your ancestors and welcome them to feast with you during the harvest season. Mhm. Burn apple blossom incense to enhance your connection to other realms. All parts of the apple are appropriate for inclusion in rituals for heightened awareness, but the dried blossoms make especially convenient loose incense. Include the seeds in protection spells. The bitter seeds of an apple make excellent additions to moho bags, spells, or amulets for protection. Plant an apple tree your Plant an apple tree in your yard to bless your home for prosperity. Apples symbolize abundance and growth, make them the perfect centerpiece tree for garden magic. If you live in a climate where apple trees do well and you lucked into a home with the land, consider planting one. The commitment of an apple tree to your homestead will bless you for years to come. Now, don't go trying it at home now. I'll stick with the Most High now. Get everything you need. All you gotta do is ask. Uh, here they go with these darn fireworks. What are they right there? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The lies they tell.
Snow White is hesitant to accept it, so the queen cuts the apple in half, eating the white harmless half and giving the red poisoned half to Snow White. The girl eagerly takes a bite and then falls into a coma or appearing to be dead, causing the queen to think she has finally triumphed. How did the evil queen poison the apple? She brews the potion and dips an ordinary apple into the brew as the raven watches silently. The sleeping death seeps into the apple, and the witch raises the apple from the cauldron to reveal that the poison dripping from the apple has formed an image of skull. The evil queen is referred to sometimes as Grimhilda in Disney publications of the 1930s and was originally voiced by Lucille LeBurn. The Pink Princess was originally named the Pink Old Lady, but renamed to avoid confusion with the commercial variety Pink Lady, a medium sized apple, light green skin turning yellow with a few faint red stripes. Hmm. Okay, as a nearly 40-year-old man, the last thing that you think I'd be writing about would be Disney princesses. Still, with the release of their latest remake, reboot, resale of Beauty and the Beast, I can't help but think about how much has changed in a very short period of time for this contemporary image of women. Personally, I think that it's fair to say that so much of our modern understanding of what it means to be a princess stems from Disney's all powerful influence. When Disney first created the princess lineup in the early 2000s, it proved to not only be a great way to help familiarize this generation with their older characters, it also proved to be lucrative franchise of dresses, magic wands, and makeovers. In fact, just last year, the Disney Princess lineup helped propel Hasbro to record sales. Interestingly, though, they also became known for marketing a certain image of young women and subsequently a standard of beauty for young girls as well. Eventually, this was met with backlash as fans became more aware of Disney's subtle stereotypes. All of a sudden, Disney's iconic princesses were becoming viewed with greater suspicion. This, of course, placed Disney in a difficult position where they were suddenly forced to rethink the nature of a Disney princess, lest they lose their market. And maybe things have begun to change. In recent films, Disney has shown that they are deliberately attempting to deconstruct the very princess stereotypes that they themselves worked so hard to build. In their recent remake of Beauty and the Beast, Belle, one of the pillars of Disney's princess line of toys, proclaims that she is not a princess at all. Moana is adamant that she's not a princess. She's the daughter of the chief. Same difference, Maui replies. Even Wreck-It Ralph's Vanellope, after discovering her princess roots, throws off her fancy garb in favor of more comfortable clothes. In fact, following the tragic death of Carrie Fisher last December, there has been an online campaign from fans to include Princess Leia in the lineup due to her fearlessness and strong character. Admittedly, Disney has yet to officially comment on that, however. All of this shows a decidedly different tonal shift from the House of Mouse, even if they do seem to want to have their cake and eat it too. Yes, they still want little girls to be excited about the frilly dresses and magic wands, a fact that potentially could be what's keeping Leia and Vanellope out of the princess lineup. Still, maybe, just maybe, Disney is also trying to break down the walls of limitation that the labels have established. This deliberate distancing from the name princess shows that Disney realizes that the term has become limiting in a number of ways. Through the representation of princesses as primarily damsels in distress, Disney has reinforced archaic understandings of gender roles over the years. Still, whereas the term has often been associated with a need for rescue, it's the princesses that are now, in fact, doing the rescuing. In fact, they are often assertive, proactive, and sometimes more courageous than their male counterparts. For example, Moana may need Maui's help, but not because he's a strong male. Rather, he draws much of his strength from her ferocity. One of the best examples of this change comes through Disney's new vision for Belle and Beauty and the Beast. Many have commented that Belle was the first Disney princess to really set herself apart. Educated and fiery, Belle seemed a breakthrough for Disney as they moved into the 90s. In the 2017 live action remake, however, this princess is not only educated but also empowering, teaching young girls in the village to read for themselves. She has a greater sense of the world around her and the limited worldviews of others. Your library make our village seem small, she says. Most importantly, though, she's even less complicit to her capture than the animated version by staying at the castle as an act of sacrifice, and even generates a much more natural relationship with the beast than in the original. This, to me, is a far better example to the young women of this generation and to the boys as well. While there is nothing inherently wrong with the label of princess, it should never define the quali- qualitative behavior of a woman. What's more, this sort of divisiveness is not isolated to princess either. As a pastor, I constantly think back to scripture and how terms like leper, tax collector, or sinner are always culturally imposed and create spaces of judgment and limitation. However, these loaded terms lose their power in Christ, where there is no longer Jew or Gentile, slave or free, male or female. In Christ, labels fall away and we are invited to be at our most whole. In fact, I would even argue that Jesus empowered women throughout the Gospels in ways that biases within his culture and church prevented at the time. It's possible that maybe Disney is finally buying into what we've known for ages, that people can't be limited to any specific label, or even that labels are, at best, incomplete pictures. While the cynical might simply call it marketing ploy, it's definitely a step in the right direction. In the future, I also hope that the next step would not be to distance themselves from the term princess, but to reclaim it, showing that the term is far from limiting in and of itself. Nonetheless, by releasing the stigma attached to the princess label, Disney has begun to offer young girls role models that contain qualities of being strong, educated, and sensitive. All right, this is the week fandom. So the poison apple is a magic blood red apple which will send its victim into the sleeping death window. The victim the victim of it can only be revived by love's first kiss. It is used by the witch in an attempt to away with Snow White in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It is also well known as her trademark object. Feature films of the poison apple is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Enchanted, and Ralph Breaks the Internet, or Cameo. Television programs: House of Mouse, The Emperor's New School, Once Upon a Time, The 7D, Descendants, Wicked World, DuckTales. Video games: Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Kingdom Hearts, Birth by Sleep, Disney Emoji Blitz, Disney Magic Kingdoms. Park attractions: Snow White's Scary Adventures, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, Snow White's Enchanted. Oh, wait. So the background development: in the stages of the film, the apple was a story element that was to deliver a significant impact to the film's tone and transition. The scene of the witch the poisoned apple was discussed in a story conference in 1936. Walt Disney the thought just stuck me on the thought just struck me on the build up of the music where she says, "Now turn red," etc. Where it starts, you might go into innocent, sweet music while she is saying something about how innocent it looks. The music changes as the apple changes and could stay that way until she says, "Have a bite." It would be a good contrast. Richard Creedon admiring the apple as if she'd like to eat it herself. Pink as a maiden's blush. Both ideas were used in the final film. Innocent music is playing when the apple turns red, and the witch appears to admire it briefly before offering it cruelly to the raven. There was also a very short sequence involving the witch stirring her cauldron that was fully animated and completed, and was among the scenes cut from the film by Walt Disney at the last minute. In the sequence, the raven looks on as the witch stirs the cauldron with a huge bone off of an unknown animal. She pauses to see that the smoke rising from the brew is shaped like skulls, and adds a drop of an unknown ingredient to the concoction. Smoke from the cauldron then begins to fill the room. This sequence would have occurred immediately after the scene of the seven dwarfs going to sleep in their cottage. The sequence would have been followed by the scene in which the witch dips the apple into the brew to make it poisonous. After turning into the old hag, the evil queen declares that Snow White should suffer a special sort of death. Looking through her spell book, she comes to the recipe for the sleeping death, and reading of the poisoned apple's effects, decides that it's the perfect way to get rid of her. She brews the potion in her cauldron and dips an ordinary apple into it as the raven watches silently. The sleeping death seeps into the apple, and the witch raises it from the cauldron to reveal that the poison dripping from it has formed an image of a skull. The image fades as the apple turns black to red to tempt Snow White. The witch cruelly offers it to the raven, who backs away, terrified, causing her to cackle maliciously. She suddenly remembers that there may be an antidote to the sleeping death and searches for the spell book, believing that nothing must be overlooked. She soon discovers that the only cure is love's first kiss. Regardless, the witch laughs it off, confident that the dwarfs will think Snow White is dead and they'll bury her alive, and thus making her unable to receive a kiss. She puts the apple in a basket and walks down through the dungeon below, emerging from the castle's catacombs in a raft. As she makes her way to the dwarf's cottage, two sinister vultures see her and, sensing that her death is imminent, quietly pursue her. She reaches the cottage and, according to plan, finds that the dwarfs have left and Snow White is alone. Catching her by surprise as she is preparing food, the witch offers her the apple, but is attacked by the forest animals, who sense danger when they notice the two vultures. Snow White does not recognize any danger in the old woman, unaware that she is actually the evil queen in disguise, and lets her into the house to offer her a drink of water, while the animals rush off to find the dwarfs. The witch tells Snow White that the apple is a magic one that can grant wishes, and, knowing of her romance with the prince, persuades her to wish for a happy reunion before taking a bite. After moaning and saying, "I feel strange," her body slumps to the floor as she falls into a coma induced by the sleeping death. The witch's supposed victory is cut short when she is discovered by the dwarfs, who, led by Grumpy, having been alerted by the forest animals to her presence, pursue her until she is cornered at the edge of a cliff, where she falls to her doom while attempting to crush a boulder onto the dwarfs, ensuring her death and allowing the vultures to devour her body remains. It is unknown what happened to the apple, but the dwarfs probably burned it. Though Snow White appears to be dead, the dwarfs can't bear to bury her, instead forging her a coffin made of glass and gold. The prince hears of her eternal sleep, comes to the clearing where her coffin is placed, revives her with a kiss, and reverses the effects of the poison. In the House of Mouse, the poisoned apples are used in House of Mouse, where they were referred to as sleeping apples. In the pilot episode, The Stolen Cartoons, Donald Duck accidentally served Snow White a sleeping apple. In the episode Jiminy Cricket, Snow White was about to eat a poisoned apple again until Grumpy snatches it when Jiminy Cricket says to the audience, "Don't eat apples unless you know where they came from." In the episode Gone Goofy, the witch tricks Snow White into biting the sleeping apple again. When Lego sees Snow White falling asleep without finishing the apple, he asks Abu if he thinks anything is wrong with it and has him take a taste himself. When Abu falls victim to the sleeping apple's effect, Lego calls for a prince to kiss the monkey, at which point Prince John arrives. The sleeping apple's notable appearance was in Pluto Saves the Day, where Pete buys these apples from the witch to put the house crew to sleep. Snow White found out about this plot, however, and the only solution to reverse the effect of the poison is for Pluto to kiss the sleeping staff members. After that, the apples are advertised on the big screen. In Halloween with Hades, the witch brings in a basket full of sleeping apples into the club. until Daisy Duck tells her that no outside food is allowed. She leaves the basket of apples at the reservation table. Then Gaston walks by and picks an apple, saying no one eats candied apples like Gaston. But when Daisy tries to warn him, Gaston ate the apple and falls into a sleeping death, causing Daisy to remark, and now no one needs a wake up kiss like Gaston. Enchanted. The poisoned apples also appear in the animation live action hybrid film Enchanted. At first, Queen Nerissa ordered Nathaniel to kill Giselle with poisoned apples. When Nathaniel fails, she goes to New York City to finish the job, repeating the Queen's and also the witch's roles in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Once Upon a Time. The poisoned apple appears in ABC's Once Upon a Time. It originated from the sleeping curse Maleficent created to use on Aurora. She later traded it for the evil queen's dark curse. The apple had the curse placed upon it so that if anyone willingly bites into it, they will fall into a deep sleep while their body is their tomb and they are tormented by their regrets, all the while appearing to be dead. However, the evil queen was unaware that, as with all curses, it can be broken by true love's kiss. At some point, the apple came into the possession of the blind witch, and the evil queen sent Hansel and Gretel to retrieve it in exchange for the whereabouts of their father, the woodcutter. The evil queen later offered the cursed apple to Snow White, who willingly bit into it, fully aware of the consequences in order to save the life of Prince Charming. Moments after Snow White bit the apple, she collapsed and dropped the apple. As it rolled away, it fell into a portal Jefferson had created in Storybrooke. Prince Charming later broke the sleeping curse and awoke Snow White. After the dark curse was cast, Regina, the evil queen, contracted Jefferson to fetch the apple with his hat in exchange for forgetting his true identity. After retrieving the apple was made into an apple turnover by Regina, who offers it to Emma Swan, who willingly accepted, unaware of the turnover's true nature. The turnover is later tasted by Henry Mills, sacrificing himself in order to save Emma while proving to her that there is indeed a curse hanging over Storybrooke. Once again, the sleeping curse is broken by true love's kiss. In this case, Emma's maternal love for Henry. It is currently unknown what happens to the remains of the turnover following Emma taking it to hospital, believing it to be the cause of Henry's condition. The 7D. In the episode For the Love of Cheese, Grim Gloom accidentally transformed himself into a frog, much to Hildy Gloom's repulsion. In order to revert the spell, Hildy searches her book of spells where the poison apple is briefly seen. In the episode 7D and the Beast, Queen Delightful gets a basket of poisoned apples from Hildy disguised as an old lady. Sir Yipsalot scares that hag away. Descendants. A replica of the apple is seen in the hands of a mannequin of the evil queen in Aradon Museum. And Ralph Breaks the Internet, as the Disney princesses of Oh My Disney were asking Vanellope Von Schweetz if she had the same experiences that they had, as well as sharing similar abilities and traits they each have in common, to see if her claim of being princess is true. Snow White brought out the apple as she asked Vanellope if she had ever been poisoned like she was. The apple was later used to save Ralph by Mulan, chopping it into 4 pieces and having the green acid-like poison that covered and formed the skull-like image of the apple melt the pegs that were used to keep their princesses dressed in place until it was time to release them and have the dresses act as parachutes that delivered him safely onto the bed they laid out for him to land on. Snow White wears a poison apple shirt as well. Printed media. Return to the Isle of the Lost. In Return of the Isle of the Lost, this fruit of venom It was hanging from the toxic tree on a tiny island that is surrounded by a poisonous lake, which could only be crossed by stepping stones. The isle was guarded by a pink tiger, and the isle itself could only be reached by going into the interior of a cavern, which was guarded by crocodiles, which can be entered at the bottom of Doom Cave. The entire interior of the cavern was damp and had toxic air. To acquire the talisman, Evie alone had to overcome the apple's power, which was to make her think she was alone and uncared about by others. Evie had to convince herself that she was being shown by the power of the apple, which, while Evie slept, caused her to dream that she was in her mother's room where the magic mirror was telling her nobody cared about her. Was not true. After she realized that, she woke up. Differences from the source material. In the original show, in the original Snow White fairy tale, the queen visited Snow White 3 times, each time in a different disguise and with a different object. First, she came with a corset, which she used to draw the breath from Snow White. The dwarfs arrive in time to remove the corset. Second, she came with a poisoned comb, which she put in Snow White's hair. The dwarfs simply remove it. Finally, she came with the poisoned apple, the effects of which the dwarfs were unable to undo. In another version, Snow White did not want the apple, so the queen cut the skin off the apple and offered it to her. While the queen at the non poisonous apple innards, Snow White ate the poisonous skin. The queen prepared the apple so that only one side was red and therefore poisonous. To convince Snow White that the apple was safe, she took a bite from the pale side, offering the red side to the girl. Snow White was not cured in the original story by being kissed. The prince was amazed at her beauty and had her carried in the glass coffin to his castle. On the way, she was knocked and the piece of poisoned apple fell out of her mouth. Mm. Buford. Big Buford. Who let the dogs out? Whoop, 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 whoop. Who let the dogs out? Gotta ask them who let the dogs out. All right, all right, all right, all right, all right. Yeah. Home is where the arch is. Oh yeah. Yeah, right. University housing at the dog house. Dog house. The dog. Snoop Dogg song. Snoop Doggy Dog. Snoop Doggy Dog. La da da. Hey, ain't nobody trying to log in. I want to see what y'all got going on? Let's see. Prospects. Students. Okay, now I want to go over the which characteristics. Now, witches are supposed to be like bald and have missing body parts and such and such and such. So, let's see, 5 characteristics of a witch or a warlock, man or female. So this is yalebooksblog.co.uk. 5 characteristics of a witch, an extract by Ronald Hutton. Witches can be defined quite legitimately in a number of different ways in the present world. What follows is concerned only with the most common usage of the word to mean somebody who works destructive magic. The below is extracted from Ronald Hutton's The Witch. Okay, can I move it? I'm scared. Characteristic 1: a witch causes harm by uncanny means. There is little doubt that in every inhabited continent of the world, the majority of recorded human societies have believed in and feared an ability by some individuals to cause misfortune and injury to others by non physical and uncanny magical means. This has been one of the most striking lessons of anthropological fieldwork and the writing of extra European history. One prominent historian of early modern Europe, Robin Briggs, has in fact proposed that a fear of witchcraft might be inherent in humanity, a psychic potential we cannot help carrying around within ourselves as part of our long term inheritance. Speaking from anthropology, Peter Jeshire proposed that notions now translated throughout Africa as witchcraft reflect a struggle with problems common to all human societies. What is valuable about these insights is that they testify to the general truth that human beings traditionally have great trouble in coping with the concept of random chance. People tend, on the whole, to want to assign occurrences of remarkable good or bad luck to agency either human or superhuman. In addition, many societies have believed that certain superhuman. In addition, many societies have believed that certain humans have the power to blight others without intention to do so, and often without knowledge of having done so. This is achieved by unwittingly investing a form of words or a look with destructive power. In the case of malign sight, this trait has become generally known to English speakers as the evil eye. Belief in it tends to have a dampening effect on a fear of witches wherever it is found, which is mainly in most of the Middle East and North Africa. From Morocco to Iran, with outliers in parts of Europe and India, this is because it is thought to be a part of the possessing person's organic constitution. As such, it is wholly compatible with witchcraft if the person concerned triggers it consciously and deliberately to do harm, as some are thought to do across its range. A majority of those who embody this malign power, however, are believed to do so wholly innately and involuntarily, so that they cannot in justice be held personally responsible for its effects. Protection and remedies for it mainly take the form of counter magic, including the wearing of amulets, charms, and talismans, the reciting of prayers and incantations, the making of sacrifices and pilgrimages, and carrying out of exorcisms. and the avoidance of placation of the persons who is locally presumed to possess it.
There with them cats, Aiden. There with them cats.
I don't know. The cats, the people, the birds, whatever they make everything evil. Whatever they trying to make evil, they make it evil. The history of Springfield in Massachusetts for the young, being also in some part of history of other towns and cities in the county of Hampden. Ham is a ham pea den. Yep, the plumed serpent. All right. So the characteristic too, a witch is an internal threat. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Early modern Europeans believed that witches attacked neighbors or kin, or exceptionally, they attacked elite figures within their own political unit, such as an aristocrat or a king. Witches were therefore not imagined to be interested in harming strangers. This distinguishes witchcraft from the use of harmful magic as a weapon in conflicts between communities. Much feuding between traditional human societies, whether organized as tribes, clans, or villages, has been believed by members to include a magical element, and such societies are disposed to blame misfortunes on the activities of magicians among their collective enemies. This belief is found in many parts of the world, but especially in three: the Amazon basin, Siberia, and Australia, and Melanesia. It is especially prevalent in the last of these regions, although even there it is found interspersed with societies in which the threat of destructive magic is perceived to be most or entirely internal, as mentioned above. Despite this broad dispersal of communities that expected magical danger from outside, they have been greatly outnumbered in the world by those who have feared it from within. Ralph Austin has commented that virtually all studies of rural African societies indicate that the efficacy of witchcraft is believed in them to increase in direct proportion to the intimacy between witch and victim. This your water? I just moved it over. It's not yours. So where was it? Go get it. Go get it. I drank my water. Okay, son. All right, son. Give him something he can feel. All my love to let him know his love is real. This love is real. Ooh, my voice is so gone. Ooh, ooh, hey, hey. Living in this world to get a life. Everyone seems so uptight. Yeah. Nothing's wrong. It's alright. My man. All right. The witch works within a tradition. Around the world, it has commonly been believed that witches gain their malignant powers through training or inheritance, but there has been no general solution to the question of how this is done. Two very common responses are that the capacity to do harm is something innate in the person of the witch, or else that the witch works by the employment of magical materials. The two often overlap in that a person who is empowered by an innate and internal force can utilize arcane forces in material objects in order to put their powers into action. Those societies that believe in witchcraft as an innate power often differ over whether it manifests because of the volition of the person concerned or asserts control over the will and actions of that person, sometimes directly against their own inclination. It is quite common for the two kinds of witch figure, the one who operates because of innate power and the one who needs to work by manipulation of the right tools and substances to exist in the imagination of the same social group. Witchcraft pamphlet. That was my old teacher's name, Miss Pamphlet. Characteristic 4: the witch is evil. Across the world, witches have been regarded with loathing and horror and associated with generally antisocial attitudes and with evil forces in the supernatural world. Such a trait rules out from the category of witchcraft the sanctioned or informally approved use of magic in neighborhood feuds. That is sometimes found, for example, in the Trobriand Islands. Public magicians would employ their skills to harm individuals who had incurred the jealousy of chiefs or neighbors by prospering above their station in life and disrupting the usual social order. Their activities were regarded as generally justifiable. Among most peoples, however, the use of magic was never regarded as a legitimate means of pursuing feuds and quarrels within communities, but as an activity distinguished by secrecy, malevolence, and intrinsic wickedness. The element of secrecy was considered to deprive the intended victim of any warning of the coming attack or consciousness of what was happening. But the Holy Spirit until the harm had been done. It was designed to prevent any opportunity for compromise, negotiation, and reconciliation, and for defensive measures, and to shield the witch as far as possible from being called to account for the crime. Such a way of proceeding linked to the witch figure violates common human notions of courage, sociability, and justice. In some aspects, witchcraft has been used to represent the evil inherent in the universe, manifesting through humans who are fitted by their natures to act as vessels or conduits for it. In others, it has embodied all that is selfish, vindictive, and antisocial with human nature, epitomizing treachery and disharmony in societies that strive for unity and neighborliness. Characteristic 5: the witch can be resisted. The belief that witches can be resisted by their fellow humans is also found worldwide in the three main forms which it took in Europe. One of these was to protect oneself or one's dependents and property by using benevolent magic, which could turn away spells and curses. If the latter seemed to take effect, then stronger magic could be employed to break and remove the effects of bewitchment, and perhaps to make the witch suffer in return. The second widespread remedy for bewitchment was to adjust the social relations that had created the suspicion of it. This could take the form of persuading or forcing the witch into removing the spell that she or he had placed, and so its destructive effects. The third remedy was to break the power of the witch with a physical counterattack. which could take the form of direct action such as a severe beating or murder, or intimidation that ran the person concerned out of the neighborhood. In most societies, however, a formal and legal remedy was preferred to this sort of private action, by which the suspect was prosecuted before or by the whole community, and if found guilty, was subjected to such punishment as it appointed. In many cases, the identification of the culprit was assisted or carried out by the same kind of public magician who which provided counter magic against witchcraft. Ronald Hutton is professor of history, University of Bristol, and a leading authority on ancient, medieval, and modern paganism, on the history of the British Isles in the 16th and 17th centuries, and on the global context of witchcraft beliefs. You might also enjoy reading Cursed Britain, The Vampire, A New History, Nick Groom, and Pagan Britain. How to spot a witch. So the belief in witches existed for centuries before the trials of Salem. Over time, a considerable body of folklore developed about how to identify witches. A contemporary writer explains the most popular methods. Perhaps the reason witch hunting has gotten a bad name is that some practitioners used rather crude methods to separate the guilty from the innocent. The notorious judges of the Holy Roman Empire, HRE, for example, simply applied thumbscrews until the unfortunate suspects confessed. And during the English witch craze in the 1640s, the Reverend John Gall recorded that every old woman with a wrinkled face, a furrowed brow, a hairy lip, a gobber tooth, a squint eye, a squeaking voice, or a scolding tongue is not only suspected but pronounced for a witch. Sexism was regrettably widespread among Gall's colleagues, even though both men and women could be witches. But more discriminating European witch hunters used far more refined techniques, as described in early law books, manuals, and court records. 1. The devil's marks and witches' teats. According to many witch hunting guides, it is best to start your examination by shaving the suspect's body and examining it for devil's marks. These are the spots where Satan brands his followers to seal their pact with him. An English jurist in 1630 described them as sometimes like a blue spot or a red spot like a flea biting. One problem in the vermin ridden 17th century, such blemishes were hardly uncommon. So the witch hunters devised an ingenious solution. The devil, they reasoned, would not allow anything of his to be harmed. Therefore, they pricked any suspicious mark with a long silver pin. If the spot didn't bleed or was insensitive to pain, the suspect was a witch. English experts believed witches often had extra nipples that they used to suckle demons. Matthew Hopkins, a witch hunter under Oliver Cromwell, exposed one woman as a witch when she was found to have three teats about her, which honest women have not. That's that what's the name of that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger? Um There it is, y'all. What is that? That is sick. Who this look like, A? Who this look like? Something wrong with you. Ugly, huh? Ugly. The tri devil. The tri, not the bad devil, but the tri devil.
there. Uh, uh. This the devil that's trying to take our men away. This is the devil that's trying to take Hebrew men, Moab and Ammon, the beast. Hmm. All right, I'm gonna go on and end this because I'm tired. See y'all tomorrow. Holla back. Shalom. Peace. Peace be unto y'all. Good night. All that good stuff.